Imagine opening your investment account and discovering that years of savings have disappeared. Not temporarily lost, not reduced by a difficult market. Gone. Now imagine that the person who took the money was not a stranger hiding in a dark room. He was a respected financial professional, a market insider, and someone people trusted enough to recommend to their friends and families. That was the shock at the center of the Bernie Madoff scandal. But the most important question is not simply, how did he steal so much? It is this: why did so many people find the story believable for so long? Bernie Madoff was not an unknown outsider trying to enter the financial world. He had built a respected career in securities, and his name carried authority. By the beginning of 2008, his firm reported more than $17 billion in assets under management. To many clients, this appeared to be proof of success. But behind the professional image was a different reality. The investment operation was later identified as a Ponzi scheme, meaning that money from newer investors was used to pay earlier investors instead of being generated through legitimate trading. For years, the system appeared stable. Clients received account statements. Returns appeared on paper. People continued to trust the process. Then, during the financial crisis of 2008, more clients began asking to withdraw their money. That pressure exposed the central weakness of the entire operation. The money was not available in the way investors believed. And when the story finally collapsed, it revealed a question that still matters today. How can a carefully constructed image of success become more convincing than the evidence beneath it? The power of the scheme began with a simple psychological advantage. People trusted the person before they understood the process. Madoff's reputation made the investment appear sophisticated and secure. But a professional image is not the same thing as transparent evidence. In a traditional investment, money is placed into assets, trades are recorded, and independent institutions can verify what happened. In a Ponzi scheme, the appearance of investment can be created through statements, reports, and carefully managed payments. Earlier investors may receive money, which makes the system appear legitimate. They may then tell others about their success. That success attracts more investors, and the new money helps maintain the illusion. The lie begins to produce its own evidence. The more people who appear satisfied, the more difficult it becomes to imagine that the entire structure may be false. This brings us to one of the most powerful forces in human behavior: social proof. When we are uncertain, we often look at what other people are doing. If a crowded restaurant appears popular, we may assume the food is good. If respected people trust a financial advisor, we may assume that person has already been carefully checked. This shortcut is useful in everyday life. We cannot personally investigate every doctor, airline, restaurant, or financial institution we encounter. So we use the behavior of others as information. But in a fraudulent network, borrowed confidence can look like independent verification. One person trusts the advisor because another person recommended him. That second person may trust him because someone else did the same. Eventually, many people can repeat the same belief without anyone checking the original evidence. Madoff also benefited from the authority effect. People are generally more likely to accept information from someone they believe is experienced, successful, and knowledgeable. Authority helps us move through a complicated world. We trust a doctor to understand a medical scan. We trust a pilot to read the instruments. We trust an engineer to understand a complex structure. In finance, expertise can be real, But the appearance of expertise can also become a substitute for proof. A confident professional may use technical language, detailed reports, and a calm manner. All of these things can create the feeling that the situation is under control. But authority can only tell us whom to listen to. It cannot prove that every claim is true. The important question is not only, does this person sound like an expert? It is also, who independently checked the evidence? The warning signs did exist. According to the investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission's Inspector General, the SEC received 6 substantive complaints between 1992 and 2008 that raised serious concerns about Madoff's investment operations. The investigation also found that 2 articles published in 2001 questioned the unusually consistent returns connected to his strategy. One complaint in 2005 reportedly identified around 30 red flags and described a Ponzi scheme as highly likely. These details are important because they challenge the idea that the fraud was impossible to detect. The evidence suggests something more complicated. Warnings can exist without becoming part of a final decision. A warning may be dismissed as incomplete. It may be given to the wrong department. It may be considered less important than the reputation of the person being questioned. And sometimes, it may simply not be followed far enough. One psychological concept that may help explain this is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is the tendency to notice and interpret information in ways that support what we already believe. If someone has already decided that an advisor is trustworthy, reassuring information may receive more attention. A complicated report may be interpreted as proof of sophistication. A contradiction may be treated as a technical misunderstanding. A warning may be dismissed as the opinion of someone who does not understand the strategy. This does not prove what any specific investor or regulator was thinking. It is a possible psychological mechanism, not a proven motive. People do not always process information only to discover what is true. Sometimes, they also process it to protect an important belief. That belief might be financial security. It might be loyalty to a colleague, or it might be the desire to avoid admitting that a decision was wrong. Another force was conformity. When everyone around us appears confident, questioning the group can feel uncomfortable. The pressure does not always come from someone directly ordering us to agree. Sometimes it comes from the fear of appearing uninformed, disloyal, or unnecessarily negative. In a trusted investment circle, a person who asks basic questions may feel as if they are challenging the intelligence of the entire group. If respected people are confident, it is easy to assume that they have seen evidence we have not seen. Psychologists describe 2 forms of social influence. Informational influence happens when we follow others because we believe they know more. Normative influence happens when we follow others because we want acceptance or want to avoid rejection. In real life, these 2 forces often overlap. We may agree with the group because we think it is correct. At the same time, we may feel uncomfortable being the only person who disagrees. Once people invest money, reputation, and relationships in a decision, leaving becomes emotionally difficult. This connects to the sunk cost effect. The sunk cost effect is our tendency to give too much weight to what we have already invested, even when that investment cannot be recovered. Imagine paying for an expensive course and discovering that it is not useful. You might continue watching it because you have already paid. Continuing does not recover the money, but it protects the feeling that the original decision was not a mistake. In a financial scheme, The emotional cost can be much higher. Leaving may mean accepting a loss. It may mean telling friends that your recommendation was wrong. It may mean admitting that the person you trusted was not what you believed. This creates cognitive dissonance, the uncomfortable tension between what we believe and what the evidence suggests. The mind wants to reduce that tension. Sometimes it investigates, sometimes it walks away, and sometimes it explains the warning away. For years, the system appeared stable. Clients received statements, returns appeared on paper. People continued to trust the process. But a Ponzi scheme has a structural weakness. It depends on money continuing to enter the system. If too many people ask to withdraw their money at the same time, the illusion becomes difficult to maintain. The financial crisis of 2008 created exactly that kind of pressure. Markets were falling. Investors were nervous. More clients wanted access to their money. At that moment, the difference between a real investment portfolio and a carefully maintained story became impossible to ignore. The system did not collapse because people suddenly became less intelligent. It collapsed because the flow of new money could no longer support the promises that had already been made. The crisis did not create the fraud. It exposed the weakness that had been there all along. In December of 2008, the pressure reached its breaking point. According to the Securities and Exchange Commission, Madoff told two senior employees that he was finished and had absolutely nothing. He reportedly described the investment operation as one big lie and a giant Ponzi scheme. The SEC charged Madoff and his firm on December 11, 2008. The collapse revealed more than missing money. It revealed missing reality. Statements that appeared to show trades and profits did not represent a functioning investment portfolio in the way clients had understood it. The numbers had looked precise. The reports had looked official. The account balances had looked real. But the underlying activity was not what the investors believed. This is one reason financial fraud can be psychologically devastating. The victim does not only lose money, they also discover that the documents they used to understand reality were part of the deception. The legal consequences followed quickly. In March of 2009, Bernie Madoff pleaded guilty to 11 federal felony charges. The charges included securities fraud, investment advisor fraud, mail fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, false statements, perjury, false filings with the SEC, and theft from an employee benefit plan. In June of that year, he was sentenced to 150 years in prison. The sentence reflected the scale and seriousness of the harm, but a legal judgment cannot restore the world that existed before the fraud was revealed. Many people lost financial security. Some lost trust in professional institutions. Others had to question relationships that had influenced their decisions. The aftermath also forced regulators and financial organizations to examine how warning signs had been handled. The case became a lesson in criminal responsibility, but it also became a lesson in institutional responsibility. A deception can be created by one person and still survive because many systems failed to challenge it effectively. No single psychological concept explains the entire case. A more careful explanation is a chain of ordinary processes interacting with deliberate deception. First, financial complexity made people dependent on experts. Second, professional reputation made the expert appear safe. Third, social proof created the impression that many others had already verified the opportunity. Fourth, consistent statements created the feeling of control. Fifth, group confidence made doubt feel socially uncomfortable. Finally, sunk costs and cognitive dissonance made it harder to walk away. None of these mechanisms means that people are irrational all the time. They are mental shortcuts that are often useful. The problem begins when several shortcuts are activated at once. A person appears successful. Other respected people trust him. The information looks technical. The results appear stable. And questioning the story feels emotionally expensive.
At that point, trust can become stronger than evidence.
But what about Madoff's private motives? Here, caution is essential. His guilty plea and the court record establish criminal conduct. They do not automatically establish a psychiatric diagnosis or a single inner motive. Several interpretations are possible. One possibility is gradual escalation. An initial act of deception may create pressure to conceal it. Each new lie protects the previous one. Over time, the person is no longer defending one false statement. They are defending an entire identity and system built around it. Another possibility is status preservation. A public identity built on competence and success may become something the person feels compelled to protect. A third possibility is moral disengagement. This happens when harmful behavior is reframed as necessary, deserved, or separate from the people affected by it. But these remain interpretations. Without a complete and reliable account of private reasoning, we should not present them as facts. The consequences of the fraud were deeply human. Victims faced financial losses, damaged relationships, and the painful experience of questioning their own judgment. Some people had trusted the investment because it was recommended by someone they knew. Others had received documents that appeared official and convincing. This is why victims should not be described as stupid or careless. The responsibility for the deception belongs to the people who created and maintained it. The same psychological patterns can appear today in online investment scams, fake experts, cryptocurrency schemes, romance scams, and dishonest charities. The technology may change. The psychological levers often remain familiar. Follower counts can replace an exclusive social club. Polished charts can replace a Wall Street reputation. Technical vocabulary can create the same illusion of control that paper statements once created. The important question remains the same. Who independently checked the claim? The lesson is not that we should trust nobody. Human cooperation depends on trust. The lesson is that trust should be made testable. Ask whether performance is independently verified. Ask whether records come from a source separate from the person selling the investment. Ask what would happen if many clients requested their money at the same time. And ask whether the strategy can be explained clearly without using complexity as a shield. Be cautious when several signals appear together. Unusually smooth results. Secrecy presented as sophistication. Pressure to remain loyal. And discouragement of outside questions. If asking basic questions makes you feel disloyal, that feeling is not proof of fraud, but it is a reason to slow down. The most important lesson from the Madoff case is not that victims were uniquely gullible. It is that ordinary human shortcuts can be exploited by extraordinary deception. So the question for all of us is this: what evidence would make you change your mind? And would you be willing to look for it before a crisis forced you to? If you found this analysis useful, subscribe for more stories about psychology, true events, and human behavior.